Good evening, primetime partiers. It's primetime party time. Welcome back to our hour of all things media and entertainment, live on the air at 9 p.m. at ptptshow.com and on your time, wherever you stream podcasts. Tonight, we are going to dish on TV theme songs. Original scores always have a story of how they came to be. Within the theme song, sometimes you find out the mood of the show, or in some cases, the entire plot. We'll cover shows that are both old and new, kind of the concept of different theme songs and what they tell you about the show itself. Hi, Daniel. How's it going?
Hello, Tracy. The entire plot, you say. Is that a tease? I hope we get to...
It's tease for one particular one.
Ooh, okay, good. I'm excited about that one because I don't know which one you're referring to just yet. Before we get into all of that, yeah, good evening. What are you toasting to? What are you roasting to this week?
My toast is I got to see my cousin graduate from college, which is very exciting. She's about 6 years younger than me, so slightly younger, but already one up in me with a master's degree. So You go, Gen Z, you go.
Big congratulations. Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah, very big congratulations. Very excited to see what she ends up deciding to do. She's a real go-getter. Loves her some Leslie Knope and really see that in her. So I know she's gonna really go for it. And I'm very excited to see her next chapter, as they would say in a very sentimental way. In my TV toast, because I kind of do a separate toast just for television these days, is I've been rewatching Kim's Convenience and I love it. I would really like to know when they are going to put the next season on Netflix again. So
again, was it taken down?
No, just that they have up to season 4, but I know they've filmed season 5.
Oh.
And I just don't know. And it's been released, I think, in Canada, but not on streaming services, just like on the whatever the provider is. And I just want to know when it will get to me. Selfishly, I'm like, but when do I know? Because the season 4 ends on quite a cliffhanger that you're like, I would like to know.
Yeah.
I would really like to know. And my roast, my week wasn't too roasty, really. I mean, I feel like I might have felt differently last week saying this now. I was like, I probably was feeling more roasty at the time, but as I've allowed myself to marinate, less roasty. But the one thing I will say is I did do some post-facts traveling, and I do feel like I'm someone who's done quite a bit of international travel, but something about just going a couple states over and having being in Central Time to Pacific messes me up more than just going 16 hours ahead. It's not so much jet lag of just being always a little tired.
Okay, all right.
And I was with my cousin who's not a huge coffee fan, and I did one day Sans coffee.
Oh.
And I was like, we can do, and I kind of was on the buzz of excitement. But then the second day I was just like, so when we pick up these bagels, I'm gonna get a coffee next door. It's happening.
It's necessary.
And then in the afternoon I was like, so I will be requiring another coffee.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. Afternoon cup for sure.
Yeah. And I remember going to this cafe and being like, she got a really cool drink, like a oolong chai latte. I was like, that's dope. I would do that if I was well rested. Instead, I was like, I'll be getting the 20-ounce cold brew, please.
Yes.
So that exactly. I could just get through this life. Yeah, I really do not function super well without my regular dose of caffeine. So that's always fun. But I realized that later because I was like, why is it so extra easy to stay up late here? And then the mornings feel so hard. And I was just like, it's just a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes that is a thing. The other thing of, traveling after not traveling in a year plus is I took Southwest and it was good. They're very, safe and whatever. But they did claim to have this free Wi-Fi on the plane that allowed you to watch their free movies and stuff. So I attempted to watch a movie, and it very much brought me back to the early 2000s where you had to wait for things to buffer, and it would just
Oh,
like stop
wow.
playing for an indefinite period of time. And at a certain point, I was like, no, this is not serving me. I cannot handle this. I've lived too long and gotten too far to just have endless buffering.
Yeah, no, the viewing on the planes experience is supposed to be one of those that's just like so much better than what you'd think it is.
Yeah, I really do think like they were trying to. I don't know what the goal was with the having people stream on their own devices versus having the little screensies in the chair. I mean, perhaps it's an experiment. I'm gonna just
Oh,
go
you had
out
to.
there
Okay.
and say this experiment is kind of a
Okay.
fail. Or I
Someone
wonder
wanted to
if they put
get
that
all
on the
maverick with
3-hour
the tech.
flights
Okay.
because they're just like, it's not worth you having a full screen. But yeah, no, it's a no for me on that one.
Okay.
I mean, it makes sense. You're in the air. Don't know how great the Wi-Fi could be. I'm not one of those people that always buys Wi-Fi on the plane when they travel. Some people do this. I kind of just am always like, I'm offline.
Yeah,
When
no.
I'm in the sky, I am watching movies, I'm reading books, probably sleeping at some point. Though on a lot of long haul flights in the past, I usually would just be like, arrive, be like, how you feel? Be like, I watched 13 movies. Some like absurd amount.
Yeah.
But yeah,
You
Daniel,
can download
what's your toast and roast for
Okay.
this week?
Toast this week goes out to No Ho Hot Chicken. This is a small little place here locally for me in North Hollywood, and I've been seeing its rise over the past year. It started off as like a tent outside of Rite Aid, and then they had this like really nondescript, like now it is a food truck, but it's not a food truck. It was a nondescript grip truck that they it looks like they just bought, and now it's painted. And I mean, they're fully legit. They keep up like a really nice Yelp page and whatnot. And they're just really like I decided to finally go to them because yeah, I've just whenever you're driving along, I'm always kind of like, oh, okay, they're still doing it. Oh, okay, wow, that's an upgrade. Oh, that's really fun. And I think I love the idea that they're just in the script truck. But yeah, I finally went and enjoyed it, and took some back to for my viewing of Mitchell's versus the Machines, which I also really enjoyed. So that was a fun movie with a great emotional core, and it was nice to have some good local chicken with it.
Ooh.
But I will say, and if you're coming from my direction to grab it, you have to pass this intersection called Linkersham, and perhaps I'll do a more thorough roast on this thing later. I want to learn the history of this because it's a nonsensical like 7th Street intersection or something like that, just like right in the middle of the grid of the valley, and it makes no sense to me.
I think we're on the cusp of like a Californians segment.
Yeah, exactly, right? Yeah.
Where like on a certain time each week it'll be like the 405 according to Daniel.
That is my favorite SNL segment. Specifically,
really
yeah, because it's so I don't know. It's one of those where it's just like
the
it's
writing
so,
is
yeah.
spot on too. Like if you actually
on.
check the directions and the jokes,
Yeah.
they're accurate. So
Yeah,
I love that.
exactly. Yeah, it's pretty fantastic, and I'm feeling it out here right now. But for like a real roast, I guess like as far as just like it's not really the TV world, but sometimes when I'm working, I like to have something on a monitor that's, just a little low effort, but somewhat fun to always look to. So I've started watching that like game that was popularized last year, Call of Duty Warzone. And
Ooh.
it's just like one of those battle royales. So there's a lot of great content creators that'll go and they'll make videos. And I watch on YouTube, which I'm finding is not the way to watch this. I guess that they also stream on Twitch. And it's fun because they're doing all these deals where it's like they'll, like if someone's promoting something, they'll play with them. So you can watch like Michael B. Jordan playing Warzone, or a bunch of athletes are getting into it now, as far as like basketball players and whatnot. As long as they're not saying anything abhorrent on stream, usually it works out pretty well. And But I will say it's kind of tough because I'm failing to get into it as like a active entertainment because the YouTube, like the game of posting the matches on YouTube, is very much like, oh, the meta of this game is you have to, use like this equipment or whatever, and it changes every week so that they can get views. I don't think Twitch has that, but the YouTube like thumbnail game is kind of exhausting to a point. And so, yeah, I don't know. I highly recommend it as entertainment, but I don't recommend the platform that I am consuming the entertainment on. But I do enjoy watching when I'm not exhausted by the YouTube game. And even then, some of the shows, some of the creators are getting their own intro music and intro themes and little title sequences before their matches going. So that's also fun to watch. And now we can talk about some of those that show up in actual television. Where do you want to start? Like every show does this.
Let's start at the very beginning. Okay. A very good place to start. So, how did TV theme songs come to be? According to the Kennedy Center, if you go all the way back to the 1940s, when having a television was not super prominent, TV shows had opened with some peppy music with usually catchy words. And according to this article, they say in the earliest years, the theme song had only 1 point, according to Robert Thompson, a professor of television and popular culture at Syracuse University. And that purpose was to be the first commercial in the program. So back in those early years, one company would sponsor a whole show. All the commercials would be for that one thing. The show would even have the company's name. In this instance, like the Texaco Star Theater, which was sponsored by the Oil and Gasoline Company. So that's just kind of going really far back into what was the first purpose of a TV theme song. But as we're seeing in a lot of the theme songs that we find beloved to us and to all, is that a lot of them either have to do with the heart of the show, how it's composed, why it's composed will kind of usually explain these details through song. But we're really specifically here looking at original theme songs of television shows. And I say this specifically because if we were to include anime, it would be its own episode because they go about the concept very differently and have so much material that it would just overflow this episode. So we're really going over like how a title song is composed, how it fits with the greater score of the show, where do you see it being licensed from, because it all kind of sheds some light on both the creators and the show itself. So Daniel, what are some shows you want to talk about to kind of get into this discussion and kind of where theme songs find their purpose today?
Yeah. I am so glad we're not doing advertisement theme songs anymore. That's
right.
An interesting fun fact.
Friends with Colgate.
Yeah, exactly. I like to think about these, I think like in 3 ways, right? The first way that I like to think about it is when the title song is composed by the greater series' composer and fits with like the greater score. Not unlike Jay Wright's Primetime Party Time theme.
Shout out.
Yeah. Sometimes these are like, I find these a lot in dramas. And oftentimes if the like title card for a drama is too short to display a lot of the over the line kind of like credits, that you'd get in like longer premium ones, like premium outlets, like these go for like minutes.
Yeah.
But Usually you'll at least get a created by credit, and usually you'll get some cast info, and to the point where you get the most, you get tons and tons of above the line credits. And it's tough because the longer it goes, it feels like the harder it is for a series that has, as the episode catalog grows and grows and grows, there's a reason that all the streaming services now give you an option to skip the credits. But there are some that I do have an affinity toward. Most recently, it's Nicholas Bertel's Succession. I have not skipped that one yet. I quite enjoy that main theme and the sort of the video that goes along with that. Other ones to shout out is like Dave Porter's Breaking Bad in this case. This one's really quick, only has the created by segment, but I love that it fits the overall like soundscape of the score that Porter does for the rest of the series, and I absolutely love when the entire theme that plays during this intro is played in full in the penultimate episode, and that stuff's really fun. This is also stuff like Ludwig Göransson's The Mandalorian recently. Stranger Things is one that I really like.
Oh yeah.
And a big part of why I really adore 24 in this case is because of its composer, Sean Callery. And the title song in the later seasons doesn't really play. Like you get this title card and you get a previously segment, and then the actual like production credits are over like the first 5 minutes of the episode. But in the first season, there was this kind of really cheesy Kiefer Sutherland narration to get you up to speed, and Sean Callery's like Jack Bauer theme would play under it in a very soft way that opens up like the actual theme song as it is as a released song, and the end credits will play the rest of this theme. I do really, really enjoy that, and I love that theme plays throughout each episode of the series, and the intro title will kind of like guide you into the soundscape of the greater score of the series, and I think it does a lot to make a drama like really coherent. There are a billion great articles and Song Exploder episodes on some of these like originally composed title songs, I suppose is the way to put it. Before I guess we get into category 2, were there any like category 1s that you wanted to sort of speak
out
to?
Yeah, I'll talk about some, though I'm sure a few of these will fit into some of these other categories going up, but I do have some that have some fun facts.
Okay.
One of them kind of shedding on the like creator relationship to the composition is there are some where they're intertwined, and one of them would be Bob's Burgers, which is mostly a kind of lightly strummed ukulele that's like, and what I also like is they do an outro that is specifically related to the exact episode's content that they usually change in each outro.
That's fun.
And it's sometimes just kind of like a joke that they made that was like kind of sprinkled throughout the episode, and then that's the outro song. But part of, and this is according to IndieWire, but part of the secret of what made the perpetual misadventures of the Belchers such a regular delight for the better part of a decade comes from the bright ukulele strains of this opening theme composed by the actual show creator, Lauren Bouchard himself. Up at the top of every episode, it's a friendly reminder that this is a family and a show motivated by true affection for these characters. It's instrumental breeziness that never feels too precious but has an undeniable warmth to it. The perfect vehicle for animal puns, noise machines, and groans of insecurity. Very accurately put from IndieWire.com's feature on the best TV theme songs of the 21st century. And I do have a few more quotes from this particular article, but we'll include it in the show notes, just saying it for now. And another one I'll say before we get into some of the other things on our categories is, and this is also like a personal fun fact, is the Scrubs theme song is Superman by the group Laszlo Bane. Kind of a one-hit wonder. That was apparently actually not quite original because it was on a soundtrack of a very indie film.
No way.
Yeah, before it ended up being the theme song. And the series star, Zach Braff, actually convinced the co-creator, not the co, the actual creator, Bill Lawrence, to use the tune and even eventually directed the music video for the song. And it was used up until season 9, which is kind of their more funky final season. But yeah, because then they ended up doing like a new version of that same song that kind of didn't sit well with everyone.
Oh.
But my personal fun fact is that when I had my own radio show, I liked to use a segment for indie theme songs.
Really?
And one of the ones I played when one of my friends from back home actually listened because I had a 4 a.m. show. So she only listened because she was on her way to Catalina Island. And I did this particular song, the I'm No Superman. And is so I have enjoyed that song. There are some theme songs that I actually put on playlists because I like the full length song and usually only get a snippet from the
Mm-hmm.
show. And then you get all the other verses and you're like, this is a bop. So those are my couple intros into TV theme songs and the backstories
I
that
like
come across.
I like that Zach Braff story. I like when like principal cast or I always love hearing production stories where people
Yeah,
like outside of the department of the work they're doing like are able to sort of contribute in those aspects. Like one of my
I
favorite
know.
behind the scenes stories of The Office is how is it John Krasinski, like a lot of the video footage you see in the intro was taken by him. Like as soon as he got the role, he was like on a road trip
Ah,
out there and it's just like him out the car like as he's driving
shooting the
around
B-roll.
like yeah, like around the time they were going to film the first episode. It's kind of amazing.
It is.
I really love that stuff. Yeah, okay. So so my other two, like I'm just trying to like figure out how to organize my thoughts around these because like you said, like there's just a billion different ways to do it, and TV's
Yes.
how old at this point.
There's
Uh, uh,
from jingles to like large orchestrations, very kind of parallel to the shows themselves, how they started off manicured in a certain way and then became, the golden age of television with series long plots. The theme songs kind of are reflective of the intentions of what TV was at that time. So there's a lot of, yeah, it's quite a large web we
yeah.
can spin with the theme songs. But our second category is a title song is composed specifically for the TV series, but performed outside of the series' greater score. And the examples that we've included from this are New Girl's Zoe Deschanel, Who's That Girl? And then we have The Fresh Prince. I will not do that one. It's too long. We all know how to do it. And Nickelodeon shows like iCarly. So when we're looking at these shows that are curated and composed for the TV show, but they don't really show up as a leitmotif throughout or really mentioned again. I think they're more kind of going in the direction of more vintagey classic TV. I think with New Girl, that could almost be intentional since,
Yeah. Okay.
her character, Jessica Day, is kind of supposed to be this like lover of all things retro, and that's her style. And the song is kind of in this, and she's in this band, She and Him, that does mostly like kind of 50s, 60s inspired music and covers. So it's not surprising to me that that also went into kind of this like peppy, like jingle kind of direction. And I think that is true that you see this a lot in comedies. But I will bring one that is the antithesis to this,
Ooh. Okay.
which is what I put in the intro as the nice little hook for people to keep listening to at the 25-minute mark. So if you're still here, you got a treat. Is Crazy Ex Girlfriend. So the theme song for Crazy Ex-Girlfriend does change throughout the seasons, and it does so according to what's going on into the show. But the first season itself is quite notable when you're getting into it because you're getting a catch up on the whole beginning, like where she started from. Because it goes through the I was working a lot at a New York job and it was making me blue. One day I was crying a lot, and so I decided to move to West Covina, California, new job and new career. It happens to be where Josh lives, but that's not why I'm here. And it's all about her. That going through that is she starts the first entire episode is her going like, I'm upset with my job in law school. I ran into Josh. Made me think I should just move to West Covina where he lives because he's moving back home. Because, like, maybe we can reconnect that way. And it's when she's kind of talking to her other female friend that she meets there and is relaying, like, well, I didn't move here for him, but it kind of is that she did. And the characters throughout the show even sometimes say it in passing, like as a conversation, which is supposed to be like a wink of like, you know, she's a crazy ex-girlfriend. That's a sexist term, which is something that they put throughout in the kind of chorus of the song. So that is one where they, and she is a series creator who both sings the song and she helped with the writing as well as Adam Schlesinger. And so, and she has a theater background. So, not surprised that it goes in this direction because it's a musical comedy. So, a lot of the songs are created for that purpose. So, that is probably why you see this depart a little bit because it's mostly comedy, a little bit of drama, so it could go into that dramedy area. But that is one where it is sprinkled throughout, although it is a comedy and although it does focus on the main character. It kind of it comes up as a leitmotif, but then in other seasons they will tweak it a bit. So, but you kind of do circle back to it a lot because it's like the original phase of the show. So even as they kind of go, as shows do, farther and farther and out from the center from which it started, you do come back to it of like, this is how everyone got into the show. This was like the beginning of this character arc. And you are kind of watching to see like, how is this going to go? And the theme song reminds you of it each episode of the first season. So that's one that's pretty fun.
Okay, so that's the example. That's amazing. Yes. That's a wonderful example. And that is a wonderful.
How many theme songs do the pilot?
Yeah, right. I needed that theme song. I remember when I watched Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, I think I was like making dinner when it was put on. And so I really didn't actually understand what the hell I was watching until that song appears. And then you're kind of like, oh yeah, I'm in for this ride. This is fantastic.
It holds it together because it's true. When you're watching a show that's really zany and goes in a lot of different kind of directions with like the comedy and like the songs that take up a certain amount of the time, you do kind of need to be like jerked back on like, okay, so but the plot and what I'm following is this.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting way that they've used the theme song to guide your focus, which I just can't think of a lot of shows that do that. So I'm going to give them that. I'm going to give them that as a very unique, distinction amongst other theme songs.
Yeah, I do think that should be appreciated. I really like these. I like how much tone is granted to them when a series does it well. And I also like there's something really just warm about some of the old ones. Like even I don't know, like I love those where it's just like, all right, we contracted like the Remembrance to play the Friends theme, and it's just like so broadcast style how like the credits come up and there's really no like motion graphics happening, and it's just like a song, some like episode clips, some titles that they made, and it's all I don't know, the weird old broadcast feeling is kind of wonderful.
It almost feels stop motion-y, even though I don't think it is.
No, totally. Yeah. Yeah. I also some animation does this category like really, really well.
Very
I
true.
don't know if anybody remembers Liberty's Kids, but that theme song was performed by Aaron Carter in the height of his fame and Kayla Hinkle. And yeah, I don't know. That one's an all timer. The Emmy winning minute long theme song for 16. That yeah, this if you maybe I'll link the 16 intro in the show notes.
Please do.
This one's hilarious because it's like these shows only have 22 minutes. So you're usually clocking in at like 20 to 30 seconds for one of these intros. Like we're not on the premium networks here.
No.
But this song is so confident that they just play a full minute before the episode starts. It's like you get the gist of the show. You understood what's happened. Like the second half of the intro has no new information. They just love the song so much. They're just like, yeah, fine, let it play. And yeah, I won a Daytime Emmy. It's perfect. We did an episode on Jackie Chan Adventures, and that had a really weird one for the end of its first season where they just repurposed Wheatus's Punk Ass Bitch to have its own lyrics for Jackie Chan Adventures with like zero difference otherwise to the song, and then dropped it completely for the Jackie Chan Adventures theme song in subsequent seasons. Yeah. And then, of course, sometimes you'll get an animated series where they just kind of pull something together from the first 3 episodes and it never gets updated. So you're like 50 episodes in and you're still watching like scenarios and characters that have not been relevant for 40 episodes. And you kind of just like, sweet. Yeah, I guess that gets into like the anime version of that mostly. But yeah. And
I
then
have another animation example if I can
Of course.
interject, which I think you'll agree with because it starts with in the 90s.
This is one of my favorite shows.
Famous TV show. That is another one where you actually are getting the theme song giving you the intro / background on the main character, which is interesting because it's all about Bojack being his washed up horse actor self.
I love that.
And that's, I think, also a fun one where they use it as the intro. I think they also use it a little bits of it as the outro.
I think they used it as the outro. Isn't the intro the like? It's mostly like a sax based kind of like drug fueled, party, I guess just Bojack kind of. What's the term I want to use? I can't think of it right now, but I adore that intro, and I adore that it evolves as the series evolves.
Yes.
Yeah, that one's really fun. Yeah, and then there, are a bunch of these songs that kind of get licensed from popular musics into intro sequences. We've talked about Chuck's Short Skirt Long Jacket on this show. House's Teardrop by Mezzanine was probably the first time I paid attention to this, where I was like, how do I listen to the House theme song outside of watching the first minute of House? And then when there's a full song attached, because they only use like the first 20 seconds, and then there's a full song after. And I was just kind of like, my mind was blown. I was like, oh, okay, so this is what they do. Yeah, this one's pretty fun. Honestly, one of my favorite examples of this is really one of my favorite examples of pretty much anything we could probably talk about in TV. The Wire's Way Down in the Hole kind of does a hybrid approach, where the original song was written by Tom Waits, like in the 80s. And
yes.
Yeah, and they, for the first season of the show, use a version by the Blind Boys of Alabama. And I couldn't really tell if it was written for the show, if it was made just before the show came out and the show decided to choose that version. But then, as the sort of focus of each season changes in The Wire, the theme song will change to fit it more appropriately. So whereas Tom Waits' version doesn't really fit season 1 of The Wire, it does fit really well season 2's premise of The Wire. And so they'll use that for the 10 episodes of season 2. And then at least the 4th and I want to say 5th seasons were actually contracted and they made versions specifically for the show's seasons. I want to say, I believe the 5th season was created, the 5th season's version was created for the show because Steve Earle performs it, and he also plays a character during the later seasons of The Wire. That's a really fun example.
I have a similar one, which is Weeds. So
Mm.
the intro is originally the song Little Boxes by Malvina Reynolds. And if you're not familiar, it's the little boxes on the hillside. Bum, 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 bum. And it's originally her song where she was an activist. That is according to Paste Magazine's article on best songs and the best 50 TV theme songs, is that it's a satire on conformity, which they think is very fitting for Weeds since she is, on the outside a soccer mom and then ends up disclosing herself as a drug dealer after, her husband's really traumatic demise. So, and they show it goes along with the intro like visuals because they show all of these like kind of track homes that are all the same. And they're kind of trying to show all of that and all this kind of like, they're in this kind of upper crust suburbia where there's a certain, you know, edge of people conform and, it gets into that somewhat Stepford Wivesy territory. But the fun thing about this theme song is that they do kind of commission a lot of artists to do the theme song. And I think in the first season, it sticks a lot with the original. But I looked at this article from 2012 from the Hollywood Reporter that's about Weaves revives Little Boxes theme with Ben Folds, Steve Martin, etc. And yeah, just tracking a lot of the, in the second season, they had Elvis Costello, they had Pete Seeger, they had Death Cab for Cutie, Regina Spektor, Oz Motley, Randy Newman, The Shins, The Decemberists, as well as in the third season, Ben Folds, Mountain Goats, Dierks Bentley, and also there's, Kevin Nealon, who's on the show with Steve Martin, Mariachi El Bronx, Mountain Goats, and New York-based DIY punks bomb the music industry and women folks to show kind of a female folk band that would be more kind of resounding with the original song. So they go in it's pretty much like every genre
This
kind of band. And I think we even also found that Rise Against did a version of the song at one point. And if you even just look at Regina Spektor to Rise Against, large range,
so,
very large range.
this is how I found out about this. I was like binging Rise Against songs on like awful quality YouTube in like 2007, 2008. And I came across Little Boxes, and I came across the Oz Motley version, and I came across another version. And I was just like sitting there, like, are we glitching? Like, what the fuck is going on? Like, what is this? Had no idea it was for the show Weeds. I love that they did this.
Yeah,
That's commitment. That's what
it's
that
really
is.
fun. I like to see it like, I think when I was younger, and I'm sure it is, but I would look at shows like this and go, is there actually a job where you get people to cover songs? Like your job is making that happen and curating soundtracks like this because that sounds like the best job. So, yeah, I would listen to the episodes or, watch the episodes and then later kind of try to find, and they were always really difficult to download. Like, where do I find until like, because usually season soundtracks aren't released until the show is really out. And so you have to kind of like figure out like where can I download this song? Will they eventually release this as an iTunes single? What's going on here? So that was always my hunt, was finding that. And that's also one of my side note, one of my favorite things to find like in record stores is kind of like these various compilation CDs where you find kind of odd ends like that. Like if they do something like TV theme songs as done by indie artists, which does happen sometimes.
Oh, that's fun. My
Yeah.
college radio station had this like Powerpuff Girls CD called "The City of Soundsville," and
Yes.
they would do the theme songs
Hell yes.
plus like just voice lines. It was just like someone just put together this compilation and put it on TV, and it ended up in the college radio station. Yeah, those sort of like CDs that come out after the season's out is pretty great. I remember, I think I ended up with like the Dexter season 4 soundtrack on clearance at some point.
Yes.
Why not? And then yeah, there are There are some shows where some very dedicated people pull the dialogue out of scenes and they'll upload extended soundtracks for listening pleasure. If anybody's really into those or really wants those moments that don't get released on, if for whatever reason something doesn't get released, though most of the time a good like at least title song will make
Yeah.
charts, make actual charts, and get its way into pop music a lot. I believe. I want to say that's what happened with Remembrance's Friends theme. I'll be there for you. Also, something we haven't talked about yet. Just want to give a shout out to Tank, the Cowboy Bebop theme.
Oh,
That's
yes.
definitely one of the better. Well, I guess that does that fall into anime. So weird
It
keeping
does.
anime out. Yeah, that's. But
Yeah.
to your
Because
point, it's
they're
a whole
incredible.
different beast. Um, yeah. Mm.
So I'm also looking at, as we just brought it up, Billboard.com has an article. It's from a few years back, but on TV theme songs that have made the Billboard charts. And some are pretty older, like ones we can think of, like Peter Gunn. And ba, 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 ba,
Yep.
na, the Batman theme song.
Okay.
Um, they have the Hawaii Five-O theme song. They have it's a lot of the theme song of Happy Days. We have the theme song of Charlie's Angels, Starsky and Hutch. A lot of Dukes of Hazard, The Love Boat. I do realize a lot of Hill Street Blues. A lot of these older songs or older shows, from Cheers, Where Everybody Knows Your Name, Miami Vice. I didn't even think about that.
Oh, Miami
Oh,
Vice, Jan Hammer.
yeah.
Yeah, it's
Twin
interesting
Peaks.
because Miami Vice's theme is a little different than at least I expected going into the series. Most of my 80s knowledge up to the point was probably through the Grand Theft Autos. But I was expecting something like a bit more sort of because you see those scenes of like the In the Air Tonight in the pilot. And
Mm.
honestly, I would actually argue that interesting enough, Jan Hammer's like Crockett's theme, which is just the character theme, is more recognized today, perhaps in the Miami Vice intro theme. It's just a lot more upbeat than you'd
Yeah,
expect for the rest of the tone of the series.
it's true. And you have been fact checked because I'll be there for
Oh,
you. Does show up on that. So the Friends theme song
oh,
on the top 40. It was a safe bet.
yeah.
Also, one that I was going to mention is the theme song for Ally McBeal, which is Searching for My Soul. And the reason I'd mention this one is because it has an interesting way of living on. And the theme song is similar in, if you're familiar with like Mary Tyler Moore, that's kind of the like you're gonna make it after all. Hers is kind of the theme is a lot about like, you know, finding yourself. And but what's fun is it's sung and co-written by Vonda Shepard. And she actually plays a lounge singer that's at the bar in the show that they're at all the time. In every episode, she sings a
What?
few songs as the lounge singer. And there are a few songs she sings too that kind of play like, if these two kind of love interests are on screen, you'll hear her like sing this like Patsy Cline song, you know, throughout the series. And or like if they have a flashback, she'll be the one singing it. So she does kind of the music for everything, but then she's also an actual character doing the music. And if the other characters want to like get on stage and sing, which happens a little bit, they'll sing with her. So that part is interesting because yeah, it is. She was a singer outside of being on the show, so hence why this one was on kind of the top 40, and it was a very popular show of its time. But I also like that the theme song, similar to how we use our composer as also a character on our show. That I know. Am I giving us too much credit? Maybe. But Ally McBeal does have their lounge singer and their theme song because another part of that show is she kind of always has music in her head, not so far off from modern day shows Zoe Extraordinary playlist, which I think we've drawn those comparison before on similar. And other past episodes, but because of that, you kind of are going through when the lounge singer is singing as like, oh, it's almost like an extension of like an inner monologue because a lot of them become pretty like lucid in that way with
Mhm.
actual, guest appearances doing the singing. But in the beginning, it's a lot of just like her singing in the background, and you're like, oh, yeah, this is what she's feeling right now. So, yeah, that's another one. Honorable mention is the Sopranos theme song, Woke Up This Morning. It was also top 40. I know a lot of people really like that one.
It was a pretty
And
iconic one. It's also, yeah, it's just one of those songs you'd hear everybody kind of. It's one of those ones that's like also 2 minutes long before streaming, so you can never skip it. But
no,
to its credit, so good at kind of giving you the tone and getting to watch. It's fun in some of those sequences because like one, you're bumping along to the song, but two, you're always waiting for like certain images to come up in the theme. I feel like
yeah,
The Sopranos did that really well. With like I always remember like, oh, like when's like the butcher shop going to come up in the intro credits and stuff like that, and oh, like we get to watch him drive into his driveway, and like
yeah.
all of the time getting to the start of the episode was sort of like this recurring journey that worked really well for the show.
And getting to a couple of more current day themes. And I am sorry to say I didn't think of this
Hmm.
because it now seems very obvious that Hannah Montana's The Best of Both Worlds would be on the top 40
Oh,
for theme songs. And to mention that, that actually also is a theme song that derives the central plot of the show. Would you like to know what the show is about? It's about two worlds. I have the best of them.
that's so
Uh,
funny. I forgot the Hannah Montana show had like that plot to it.
yeah, I mean, we all know the words to it, but we
This, no,
just
we
kind of
do. I can sing right now, but
forget. And speaking of Regina Spektor earlier, is the You've Got Time from Orange is the New Black, which that one
oh,
also skipped my brain a little bit. So that's a good one. I wouldn't be surprised because I want to say, ooh, live fact check. So,
oh, what are you
the
looking up?
I'm pretty sure, yeah, that creator of Weeds, Genji Cohen, is she also the creator of Orange is the New Black? She is. And so it makes sense that she did little boxes for Weeds and then got recruited to do theme song for Orange is the New Black.
So, okay. I've been
So
trying
that's a
to
bigger slot for sure.
absolutely. I've been trying to look up something too. Do you remember the like not Teen Titans Go, but the original Teen Titans on Cartoon Network?
Yes. Yes.
So the artists that did that theme song, Puffy Amiyumi, got their
My
own
favorite.
show afterwards that they also did their theme song for. That was also broadcast on Cartoon Network and probably made by the same studio.
I think so, due to the animation being incredibly similar.
Did they just nail the theme song so well that they gave them their own show? Is that what
I
happened?
would love to think so. I was definitely the target audience for that show. I had the CDs. I went to many a date myself Tower Records when it was still open to get Puffy Amiyumi albums
That's
and watch the show. I was really into it.
well, my sister had
And
it
I also
in
was really
the
into Teen Titans. So I was just like watching all of them at the same
and
time.
yeah, and if you got the Puffy Amiyumi like album, it gave you the Teen Titans theme like as the last track down on the
Yes.
bottom, like just like here's a bonus. And I believe like track one was their theme song, Hi Hi.
Yeah.
That's fun. I wonder. I'm trying to figure it out. I my headcanon is like that's what happened. Like they were like, oh wow, this is amazing. Let's give these rock stars that we got this theme song for our superhero show. Like let's just give them their own show.
I mean, the only other show I can really think of a band getting their own show is in the 60s, the Monkees. And
Mm.
I want to say, yeah, listener feedback, you guys can fact check me. But I know Carole King and one of her other co writers wrote a lot for the Monkees TV show, and that's like Last Train to Clarksville and other things like that. The other show that I will mention, even though it's kind of like out there, I can think of another musical family got their own TV show, and that would definitely be the Osbournes.
Oh, oh.
But in a very different way since that's reality TV. But
Hmm.
and a few musicians do end up getting reality TV just because they're in that kind of celebrity world. But Puffy and Yumi is very specific because they are theme song writers that then get their own show outside of the small bubble of musicians that get their own TV show. They're out on their own of like how many composers slash bands get their own show afterwards because
You have to
they're
working with the same people.
they're
Like,
so show worthy. That is definitely one that I want to revisit, and maybe we will do a Ghost of Prime's Times Past
I'm down.
in the
I'm
future.
kind of
It
down. It,
it'll be a wormhole to get a hold of this content. Cartoon Network, please deliver.
oh yeah, can we watch? Well, here's something that we can watch.
Oh yeah.
What I have learned is that the series' original pilot that wasn't broadcast was
Ooh,
uploaded to Vimeo like 3 years ago.
that's what we
Uh,
like to hear.
so there's gotta be some way. I'm
I
fully
think
down for a
so.
Ghost of Primetime's Pass on Puffy Yummy. Like, let's find out what happened there.
I
Uh,
know. You heard it here first, guys. We're spiraling out. Theme songs becoming shows and then becoming episodes of us that we do on shows. If you thought we were meta before,
right.
we're really getting there now. No, but Puffy Yumi and Teen Titans itself, great theme song. Teen
Yeah.
Titans.
Truth truth told, like at the end of the day, there's so many different directions a show
There are.
can go with in order to essentially like how some sort of title song title sequence uh they're the long versions of the ones that their composer creates,
Yeah.
and they're the ones that focus on the talent or the general feel and give you like a fun theme song to jam out to get excited for the episode. And sometimes you just get a title card and it plays during the credits that the volume's off because there's a ad for whatever's coming up next anyways, and you barely ever hear the title sequence song.
Yeah. I mean, pop theme songs do become like a part of pop culture. And it's, if you listen to any genre of music, you can get drawn in to a theme song and know all of it, even if you are not a fan of whatever the composer did. But if you love the show, you'll really be locked into it. It's like everyone who's born from pretty much 90 to 99 can just recite the Pokemon theme song at any point
Yeah.
of consciousness.
Not verse 2, but absolutely verse 1. Absolutely. At any time. Anytime I'm needed to. Absolutely.
It's burned in your brain. So I think that is kind of what is a nice like closing note on theme songs is that they are kind of this unifier across when you get to these like really big TV shows that most like when we're looking at our prime time type of shows that everyone's kind of diving into to be a part of a certain cultural moment, to get into the comedy that everyone's saying is like going to be the next X, Y, and Z. That is where you get into these theme songs that are just so. I mean, I think there's like a whole separate thing for instrumentals versus lyrical, because lyrical is really what we've been talking about for the majority of our conversation and how they kind of reference the plot. Because, we can also think of instrumentals that capture a lot of the kind of tone of the show without having to say a lot when you're thinking about Seinfeld where it's just like a bass line, or Curb Your Enthusiasm where it's just like which honestly makes you think of like if it was a theme song, which I love because that is a lot of the moments that you're watching on that show. So yeah, and the baseline in Seinfeld is also kind of like reflecting it being this like what goes behind a stand-up comic and kind of like slapping the bass and slapping, slapstick jokes. So I think there's a lot of mirroring there. And yeah, animation is tough because yeah, we've only gone on the surface for a few, but it would be hard to not mention like Danny Elfman doing The Simpsons, and he's done like Nightmare Before Christmas and Beetlejuice and all this stuff. And obviously, Simpsons being The Simpsons is just has a lot of. They'll show up in a lot of conversations because they do a lot of stuff.
Been around a long time.
But and then we have like the beginnings of like the Flintstones and Hanna-Barbera in general that have really concrete theme songs that, yeah, are a little more jingly, are reminding you of what's going on in really basic concepts. But yeah, that's, I think, like what the one thread we can get through all of these is they might have begun as advertisements, but they now kind of give you a little bit of a hook of what the show is meant to be.
And that's our theme song. Playing down there. It was done by Jay Wright. You can find him at jwrightmusic.com. Our artwork was done by Fen. You can find her at FenLatte on Instagram. Our website was done in thanks to Coco. We have a production manager, BMAC, and we got a listener note that someone was very excited that we mentioned Paviyami Yumi. So this might be a tease to revisit that at some point. You can find previous episodes of Primetime Party Time on Apple, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcasts. If you want to rant, roast, and or rave with us, you can hit us up by sending us an email at info@ptptshow.com via our voicemail or chat box on the ptptshow.com homepage. And of course, listen live next Monday at 9 p.m. on the very same ptptshow.com for another Prime Time Party Time. I've got a couple seconds here for this to play out this time.
Just keep grooving around to our own theme song.
The full version of this theme song is released on jwrightmusic.com.
Oh, yeah. Do take a listen, guys.
Just did an hour on like something that's very, very visual and audio focused without being able to give any sort of reference to either of those things. It's kind of amazing.
We'll definitely see how that goes over with everyone, other than me interjecting ever so often with a quick in case you haven't heard it, don't make me dance, don't make me sing, I will sing 2 seconds of the song.